My fiancé forbade me to meet his parents and claimed they wouldn't attend our wedding. I went to see them in secret, and what I discovered left me horrified. I stand in front of this white door and cannot move. My hands are shaking so much that I can barely hold my purse. My heart is beating in my throat, and there is only one thought spinning in my head. This is impossible. This can't be. But it's true. The man who just crossed the threshold of this house is the same man who broke my heart 2 years ago with a single phone call. Maximum, my fiancé's father. I have to get out of here. Right now. Before Jenny realizes something is wrong. Before he makes up some story. Before this whole nightmare gets even worse. I take a step back, then another. Jenny waves at me from the kitchen window, smiling. The lovely woman who just treated me to homemade cookies and told me how proud she is of her son Adam. If only she knew. 2 hours ago, I was just a normal girl who decided to finally meet her fiancé's parents. And now I'm running down the street trying to figure out how my life turned into some kind of crazy TV show. It all started 2 years ago. It was September, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and I was sitting in the university cafeteria with my friend Sarah, trying not to cry. Max had just called and said it was over between us. Just like that. No explanation, no let's talk. Just a cold, Mary, I think we should break up. Don't call me anymore. What a jerk, Sarah said, handing me some napkins. You've been dating this guy for a month and he dumps you over the phone. I nodded, not trusting my voice. Max seemed so special. He was older than me. Confident, smart. He worked at an IT company, always talked about interesting projects, took me to nice restaurants. I thought he was serious, that there was something real between us. Maybe he just got scared? Sarah asked uncertainly. Sometimes men act strangely when they feel attached. No, I shook my head. You should have heard his voice. He was so indifferent, as if he were talking to a stranger, and that was the most painful thing. A month ago, when we met at a cafe near the university, Max seemed enchanted by me. He said he had noticed me a week ago, but couldn't muster the courage to approach me. You're so young and bright, he said then, looking at me with a kind of warmth in his eyes. I feel younger when I'm with you. I liked those kinds of phrases back then. They made me feel special, more grown up. Max was the first man who talked to me as an equal, not as a young student. He was interested in my thoughts and listened to my stories about my future career. But then, things started to get strange. He never answered my calls after 9 in the evening. He said he went to bed early because of work. He didn't talk about his life and avoided conversations about the past. When I asked about his family, he changed the subject. I have a complicated relationship with my family, he said once. I don't want to ruin our mood with family dramas. I didn't insist. At 22, I thought that mystery made a man more interesting. Now I realize how naive I was. After a month of dating Max, I fell in love. He was smart, an interesting conversationalist, and knew a lot about the world. I felt protected and grown up around him. When he kissed me goodbye after our dates, I dreamed of the future. And then came that call. Cold, short, irrevocable. Don't even ask why? Sarah couldn't help herself. I did ask. He said he just realized we were too different, and that it was better to end it now, before it got even more painful. Bastard, Sarah hissed. You know what? Forget about him. You'll find someone better. But at that moment, I didn't want to look for anyone. I just wanted to understand what I had done wrong. Why was I not good enough for someone I loved again? I had just gotten home when my phone beeped. A message from an unknown number. Hi, I'm Adam. I saw you at the university today and couldn't help but write to you. You're so beautiful. Can we meet? Normally, I would have deleted such a message without reading it. But that day, I wanted to prove to myself that someone still liked me. So I replied, Hi. How did you get my number? I asked your friend. She said you were single. Is that true? Sarah? When did she have time? I immediately wrote to her, but she replied that she didn't know anything about any Adam and hadn't given my number to anyone. Strange, but I didn't care anymore. My head was filled with thoughts of Max. "Yes, I'm single," I wrote to Adam. "Can I call you?" "I want to hear your voice." His voice was pleasant and young. He spoke enthusiastically, as if he was really impressed by our meeting. "I noticed you right away in the cafeteria," he said. "You were sitting with your friend and looked so sad. I wanted to come over and ask if everything was okay." "Why didn't you come over?" "I didn't want to intrude. But I thought about you all the way home. And then I decided that life is too short to miss opportunities." His words warmed me. After Max's coldness, such attention seemed like a gift from fate. The next day, he came to my house. I looked out the window and saw a handsome guy with a huge bouquet of red roses. He stood by the entrance and looked around, holding the flowers as carefully as if they were made of crystal. "Are you Mary?" he asked when I came out. "Yes, and you're Adam?" He smiled, and my heart skipped a beat. Such an open, sincere smile. It was nothing like Max's reserved smile, which always seemed a little tired. "These flowers are for you," he said, holding out the bouquet. "I know it may seem strange, but I couldn't wait for our date." "But we didn't agree on a date." "Then let's agree on one now." "Will you go with me for coffee? Or for a walk? Or just stand here and talk? I don't care, as long as you're with me." I should have said no. I should have asked how he found out my address, why he found me so quickly. But Adam was so sincere, so enthusiastic, that I felt special, needed. It was like balm on the wound Max had left. "Okay," I said. "Give me a minute to get changed." "Of course." "I'll wait as long as it takes." He waited 25 minutes while I did my makeup, changed 3 blouses, and convinced myself that I looked normal. When I finally came downstairs, he was still standing there with the same enthusiastic expression on his face, as if those minutes had flown by unnoticed. Over coffee, we talked about everything. It turned out that Adam worked as a consultant in a large electronics store, loved American movies, and dreamed of starting his own business someday. "What kind of business?" I asked. "It's a secret for now," he winked, "but I'll definitely tell you when we get to know each other better." He talked about his plans so enthusiastically that I didn't notice how 4 hours had flown by. Adam was interested in my studies, my plans for the future, even what books I read. "You're special," he said as he walked me home. "I've never met a girl like you before." "What do you mean?" "Real. No masks, no games. You're just yourself, and that's beautiful." At the time, his words seemed like the most romantic in the world. Now, looking back, I realize how accurate they were. I really was real. A naive girl who believed the first handsome guy with pretty words. But back then, I was floating on clouds. Adam called every day, wrote sweet messages in the morning and at night, remembered all my university affairs. When I got the flu a week after we met, he brought soup from his mother, medicine from the pharmacy, and sat next to me while I slept. "Aren't you afraid of getting infected?" I asked through my fever. "I'd do anything for you," he replied and kissed me on the forehead. Within a month, I was head over heels in love with him. Adam was everything I missed in Max. Attentive, caring, always ready to listen to me. He was only a year younger than me, but he acted very mature and responsible. "Do you know what you mean to me?" he would ask, kissing me on the temple after our long walks in the park. "Tell me," I would whisper. "You are my destiny. I always knew that someday I would meet my soulmate, and it's you, Mary. I knew it from the first moment I saw you." After Max's coldness, these words sounded like music to my ears. I felt loved, desired, important. Adam talked about the future as if it were already written, and we were definitely in it together. Now, walking down the street and trying to make sense of what happened today in that house, I realized that it all started with that first lie, with that strange coincidence that I didn't think much of, from the trust I gave so easily, thinking that love is always beautiful and honest. 2 years with Adam flew by like a single day. We became the couple everyone talked about with envy, the perfect couple who complemented each other. He brought me coffee before lectures, waited for me outside the university after classes, remembered all my exams and tests. My coworkers at the store said that he constantly talked about me and showed them photos. "You're so lucky," Sarah would say, watching Adam pick me up after class. "Look how he looks at you. Like you're the eighth wonder of the world." And it was true. Adam looked at me as if I were the most precious thing in his life. When I was sick, he took a day off and spent the whole day making me chicken soup. When I was struggling with my thesis, he sat next to me until midnight, bringing me tea and encouraging me. "You're the smartest girl I know," he said, stroking my hair. "You can do it. I believe in you." His support meant everything to me. After a painful breakup with Max, Adam was like a gift from fate. Young, in love, ready to do anything for our relationship. He liked working at the electronics store. He knew a lot about technology, easily found common ground with customers, and within a year he was even promoted to senior consultant. "Soon I'll be earning enough for us to rent our own apartment," he said dreamily. "Imagine, our home, our rules, no one to bother us." I lived with my parents in the suburbs, and he lived with his. Sometimes we rented a hotel room for the weekend, but more often we just walked around the city, went to the movies, and took trips to the countryside. Adam knew a lot of interesting places, small cafes that made the best cheesecake, parks where you could sit on a bench for hours and watch the sunset. "How do you know all this?" I asked him once when he took me to a picturesque hill outside the city. "I used to come here with—" He paused, then smiled. "With friends." It was a long time ago before we met. I didn't ask for more details. Everyone has a past, and I didn't want to seem jealous. But there was one thing that surprised me and even upset me a little. In 2 years, Adam had never introduced me to his parents. Every time I brought it up, he found some excuse. "My mom is sick right now. I don't want to bother her," he said the first time I suggested visiting them. "What's wrong with her?" I asked, concerned. "Migraines. She gets them often. The doctor says it's stress from work." "Does your mom work?" "I thought you said she was a housewife." "Well, she works part-time sometimes. Tutoring, you know." A month later, I brought up the subject again. "Maybe we could visit your parents this weekend? I could cook something delicious." "They're away right now," Adam replied, without looking up from the TV. "They went to visit Grandma in another city. When will they be back?" "No idea. Grandma is old, so they might stay a long time." I nodded, but something tugged at my heart. Why was he so reluctant to talk about his family? Why were there always obstacles? "Adam," I said one evening as we sat in a cafe, "I understand that every family has its problems, but I would like to meet your parents." "We've been together for 1.5 years." He put his hand on mine and smiled that special smile of his. "Mary, you know how much I love you. It's just that my parents, they're so conservative. They need time to get used to the idea that I'm in a serious relationship." "But they know about me, don't they?" "Of course. I tell them about you. They just want to be sure it's long-term before they meet you." "How much longer will it take?" "Soon, my love. Just give them some time." I agreed, as I always agreed with Adam. He seemed so sincere, so confused about this topic that I didn't want to pressure him. But weeks passed, months passed, and the situation remained unchanged. When I asked about his parents, Adam came up with some excuses again. "Dad is very busy at work right now, new projects." And his mother helps him. "His father is sick and undergoing treatment. It's not the right time for dating." They are preparing to move to a new apartment. Their home is in disarray. It's their wedding anniversary next week, and they are preparing for the celebration. Each excuse sounded logical, but together they painted a strange picture. It was as if Adam's parents lived in some parallel world where something was always happening, and there was never time for simple human things. "Maybe the problem is me?" I asked Sarah. "Maybe they don't like me?" "Don't be silly," my friend dismissed. "He says he talks about you. Some parents are just like that. My aunt didn't want to meet her son's boyfriend for 3 years. Why? She was afraid they would break up and she would feel awkward. Maybe Sarah was right. Maybe I was overthinking it. And then, a year and 9 months after we met, Adam proposed to me. It happened in the same park where we kissed for the first time. It was a sunny April day, and I was sitting on our favorite bench reading a book, waiting for Adam. He said he would be late from work, but asked to meet me there. When I looked up from the page, he was standing in front of me on one knee with a small velvet box in his hands. "Mary," he said, his voice trembling with excitement. "These 2 years have been the happiest of my life. You make me a better person, and I can't imagine my future without you." I held my breath. My heart was beating so loudly that it seemed the whole park could hear it. "Will you marry me?" The ring was simple but beautiful, thin gold with a small diamond. I knew Adam had spent all his savings on it. "Yes," I whispered through my tears. "Yes, of course." He put the ring on my finger, picked me up, and spun me around. People around us applauded. Someone shouted, "Congratulations!" And I laughed and cried at the same time. "I love you so much," Adam whispered in my ear. "You are my everything, Mary. My everything." The next few weeks were spent planning the wedding. We wanted a modest celebration just for our closest friends and family. I made guest lists, looked for a dress, and chose flowers. Adam helped with everything he could, finding venues, arranging with the photographer. "What about your parents?" I asked as we discussed the number of invitations. "Will they need a separate table?" Adam fell silent, looking at his notebook with notes. "Mary, I have bad news for you," he finally said. "What happened?" "My father found out that he has to go on a business trip to Ireland. It's a very important project. He can't refuse." "When?" "Right on our wedding date, and my mother is going with him." I felt something cold spread through my chest. "Can't you postpone the wedding? A week earlier or later?" "No, I can't. The project is scheduled to last 3 months, and there's no exact date for his return." 3 months? Adam, it's our wedding. Work can't be more important than the wedding of his only son. He put his hands on my shoulders and looked me in the eyes. "Honey, I understand how upset you are. I am too. But Dad can't refuse. It's too important for his career. And Mom doesn't want to leave him alone for so long. But, listen," he interrupted me. "The main thing is that we're getting married. That we'll be together. And our parents? Well, we'll throw them a separate celebration when they get back." I was silent, trying to digest what I had heard. A wedding without the groom's parents? It seemed wrong, incomplete. "Are you sure they can't find a way to stay?" I asked quietly. "I'm sure." "Mary, I know it's not ideal, but sometimes you have to compromise. The main thing is our love." I nodded, but something inside me protested. In 2 years of dating, I had never met his parents, and now they wouldn't even be at the wedding. It was strange. Too strange. "Maybe we should really postpone it," I tried again. "Wait until they come back." "No," Adam said sharply. "I don't want to wait another 3 months. I want you to be my wife as soon as possible." There was a kind of insistence in his voice that alarmed me. It was as if he was afraid I would change my mind if we postponed it. "Okay," I said finally, "if it's that important to you." "It's very important. You're the most important thing in my life, Mary. Everyone else is just background noise." That night, I couldn't sleep for a long time. I tossed and turned, trying to understand why this situation bothered me so much. Adam was right. Our love was the most important thing. But something wasn't right. Something I couldn't understand. The next morning, finishing my coffee and watching Adam get ready for work, I made a decision. I would go to his parents myself. I would meet them, talk about the wedding. Maybe I would find a way to convince them. I had their address. I had memorized it a month ago when Adam stopped by to pick up some documents. "Wait in the car," he asked me then. "I'll be back in a minute." I sat in the car and looked at the neat 2-story house with white shutters. Very cute, homey. the kind of place where you want to raise children and celebrate family holidays. Now I'm going there, without Adam, without warning. Maybe it was wrong, but I had to do it. I wanted to understand why there were so many secrets surrounding simple things. I had no idea that in a few hours my life would be turned upside down. For 3 days I carried this thought around with me like a hot potato. To go or not to go? On the one hand, it seemed like an invasion of privacy. On the other hand, isn't it natural for a bride to want to meet her future husband's parents? On Thursday morning, I finally made up my mind. Adam left for work, kissing me goodbye and reminding me that we were going to pick out a ring for him that evening. It was a normal day with normal plans, but my stomach was in knots from nerves. I sat for a long time with a cup of coffee, staring out the window and trying to convince myself that I was doing the right thing. Adam would be angry, that was for sure. But wouldn't he understand how important this was to me? The address had stuck in my mind since the day Adam stopped by to pick up some documents. It was a month ago. We were coming back from a walk, and suddenly he said, "I need to stop by home for a minute to pick up my work record book." "Can I come with you?" I asked, and immediately saw him tense up. "Better not. My parents are sleeping after my mom's night shift. I don't want to wake them up." "Night shift? I thought your mom was a housewife." "Well, she sometimes works part-time, at the hospital, as a cleaner." I was surprised he hadn't mentioned this before, but I didn't ask. Adam stopped the car in front of a neat 2-story house on a quiet street at 47 Maple Street. "Wait here, I'll be quick," he said and ran to the door. I sat in the car and looked at the house. White walls, green shutters, a small garden in front of the entrance with roses and marigolds. Very cute. Homey. A blue Honda was parked in the yard, and warm yellow light shone through the windows. An ordinary family home, where an ordinary family should live. 15 minutes later, Adam returned with a folder of documents. "Is everything okay?" I asked. "Yes, I found what I needed." "Let's go." As we drove away, I noticed him glance anxiously at the house, as if checking to see if anyone was watching from the windows. Now I was driving down the same road, only alone. Bus number 23 took me to the right stop in 40 minutes. I walked slowly, looking at the street. The daylight made everything look even nicer. Neat lawns, children's bicycles outside some of the houses, elderly pensioners watering their flowers. I stopped at house number 47. My heart was pounding so hard that it seemed the whole street could hear it. The same blue Honda was parked in the driveway, which meant someone was home. "Just knock on the door," I told myself. "Say hello, introduce yourself, talk. What's so hard about that?" But my hands were shaking when I pressed the doorbell. A melody sounded somewhere deep inside the house, then footsteps. The door was opened by a woman of about 37, short, with short blonde hair and friendly green eyes. She was wearing a blue house dress and a small floral apron. "Good afternoon," she said and smiled. "Who are you looking for?" "Good afternoon. Sorry to bother you. My name is Mary Johnson. I ... quote. I swallowed. "I'm your son, Adam's fiancé." The woman's face lit up instantly. "Mary." "My goodness, at last. I'm Jenny Stone, Adam's mother. Please come in, come in." She stepped aside, inviting me inside, and I found myself in a cozy living room. Soft beige sofas and armchairs, bookshelves, family photos on the dresser. It smelled of coffee and homemade baking. "Please sit down," Jenny said, pointing to the sofa. "Would you like some coffee?" "Or tea? I just baked an apple pie." "Tea would be great, thank you." Jenny disappeared into the kitchen, and I looked around. There were photos on the dresser. Adam as a teenager in his school uniform, Adam with his diploma, Adam with a man and a woman. Probably his parents. I looked closely at the photo. The man looked familiar, but I couldn't remember where I might have seen him. "Your son is so handsome," I said when Jenny returned with the tray. "Thank you," she smiled, placing a cup of steaming tea in front of me. "He'll always be a little boy to me, but I understand he's grown up now." We sat across from each other, and I didn't know where to start. "Adam talks about you a lot," Jenny said. "It's true, we've never met. He said you're very busy with your studies." Yes, I'm graduating from university this year. And did he talk about you? Of course. He says you're smart, beautiful, and very kind, and that he loves you very much. Something in her voice made me look more closely. Jenny spoke sincerely, but with some surprise, as if she herself was amazed to finally meet me. Mers, if it's not a secret, she said, sipping her tea, why did you decide to come today? Did Adam say anything about meeting me? I hesitated. Should I tell the truth or make something up? Actually, no, I admitted. He doesn't know I'm here. It's just, we're getting married in a month and I really wanted to meet you. Getting married? Jenny's eyes widened. In a month? Yes, on June 5th. Why? She put down her cup and looked at me with such a strange expression, as if I had said something unbelievable. He didn't tell you about the wedding? No, Jenny said quietly. He didn't tell me anything about the wedding. Now I was surprised. How come? But he proposed to me a month ago. We've already planned everything, booked the restaurant. Mary, Jenny interrupted me, when was the last time Adam was home? I don't know. He said he stopped by to pick up some documents. That was about a month ago. Jenny was silent for a few seconds, staring into her cup. He hasn't been home in 3 months, she finally said. The last time anyone saw him was at Christmas. I felt the blood drain from my face. But that's impossible. He lives with you. No, dear. Adam has been renting an apartment in the city center for 6 months. He said he wanted to live on his own. My head was spinning. Adam rents an apartment? But he always said he lived with his parents, which is why we couldn't meet at his place. Maybe you're confused? I asked weakly. No, I'm not confused. Here's his address. Jenny took a notepad from the kitchen table and wrote it down. 39 Oak Street, apartment 23. I looked at the note and couldn't believe it. Adam lived separately and didn't tell me? Why? Jenny, sorry for the tactless question, but why do you see him so rarely? Did you have a falling out? No, what are you talking about? She said quickly. He's just a grown man with his own life. He calls once a week to tell us how he's doing, but he rarely comes home. What about your husband? Has he not seen Adam in a long time either? Max isn't home from work yet, but he's worried too. We'd both like to see our son more often, but we understand youth, career, maximum. Jenny's husband's name was Max. Something tugged at my memory, but I couldn't figure out what. What are your husband's plans for June? I asked, trying to sound casual. For June? The usual. Work, vacation in July. Why? Adam said you'd be on a business trip to Ireland on your wedding date. Jenny looked at me as if I were speaking Chinese. A business trip? To Ireland? Mary, Max works for a local IT company. He never goes on business trips. And he certainly wouldn't take me with him. Who would look after the house? I sat there trying to understand what was going on. Adam had lied to me about where he lived. He had lied about his parents' business trip. What else? Jenny, I said cautiously, how long has your husband been working in IT? 15 years now. He loves his job and says he couldn't do anything else. How old is he? 37. Why do you ask? 37. So when I met Max 2 years ago, he was 35. He said he was 26, and I believed him because he really looked young. Maximum. The Max who dumped me over the phone. My heart started beating so fast that I was afraid I would faint. Can I see the photos? I asked, pointing to the dresser. Of course. Jenny brought some frames. I picked up the one where Adam was standing with his parents and looked closely at the man. Dark hair, brown eyes, a confident smile, a face I knew by heart, a face I had kissed 2 years ago. The face of the man who broke my heart with a cold phone call. Oh my God, I whispered. What's wrong? Jenny asked, concerned. I didn't know how to answer. How could I explain that her son's father was my ex-boyfriend? That the same man who had left me without explanation was now married and had a grown son? Nothing. I forced myself to smile. Adam just looks a lot like his dad. Yes, everyone says that. Max will be here soon. He usually arrives around 6. Would you like to wait for him? He'll be so happy to meet you. Wait for Max. See his face when he recognizes me. Find out why he lied about his age, his marital status, everything. Yes, I said. I'll wait. We talked a little more about Adam, about the wedding, about my plans after college. Jenny turned out to be a very nice woman. She told funny stories from her son's childhood and showed me his drawings, which she still kept. She was just a loving mother who was proud of her boy. If only she knew what her son had gotten himself into. If only she knew that her husband... At 5:45, I heard the sound of a car in the yard. Max is here, Jenny said happily. I'll introduce you now. I clenched my hands into fists and prepared to meet the ghost from the past. The sound of the key in the lock made me jump. Jenny fixed her hair and smiled. Let me introduce you to my husband. He's so nice, you'll like him. I sat on the sofa, clenching my hands and trying to breathe evenly. My heart was pounding so loudly that it seemed the whole house could hear it. Honey, I'm home. A familiar voice rang out from the hallway, the same deep voice that had spoken tender words to me 2 years ago and then coldly announced our breakup. I closed my eyes for a second, hoping that when I opened them, it would turn out to be a dream. Max, we have a guest, Jenny called out. Come here and meet her. Footsteps approached the living room. I raised my head and saw him. Max stopped in the doorway as if rooted to the spot. His face froze as if he had seen a ghost. His eyes widened, his mouth opened slightly. He stared at me and seemed to forget how to breathe. Max? Jenny turned to him in surprise. What's wrong with you? He quickly regained his composure, blinked several times, and took a step forward. Sorry, just had a rough day at work. His voice sounded tense, not quite natural. This is Mary, Jenny said, pointing at me. Our Adam's fiancée. Imagine she came to meet us. She says they're getting married in a month. I saw Max flinch slightly at the word fiancé. He stood at the door and looked at me as if trying to figure out if this was real. Hi, he finally said. Mary, right? Yes, I said, looking him straight in the eye. Mary Johnson. He nodded, and I saw a shadow of recognition flash across his face at my last name. Of course he remembered. How could you forget someone you dated for a whole month? Sit down, dear, Jenny said, patting the sofa next to her. Mary told us about the wedding. It turns out our son is getting married, and we didn't know anything about it. Max slowly walked over and sat down, keeping his eyes on me. I could see him trying to understand the situation, his mind racing. Wedding, he repeated. When? June 5th, Jenny answered for me. Can you believe it? In a month, and Adam didn't tell us anything. June 5th, Max repeated. He wasn't looking at me now, but somewhere on the floor. That soon? Yes, that's why I decided to come, I said, trying to keep my voice calm. I wanted to meet Adam's parents in advance. Max looked up at me sharply. There was something like panic in his eyes. And, where is Adam now? He asked. At work, at the electronics store. I see. An awkward silence fell. Jenny looked from one to the other, clearly sensing the tension but not understanding its cause. Honey, you seem strange, she said finally. Are you tired? Yes, Max nodded quickly. It's been a very difficult day. Problems with a new project. He looked at me again, and I saw a question in his eyes. It was as if he was trying to figure out whether I knew the truth or had just happened to be there. I think we've met somewhere before, he said cautiously. Your face looks so familiar. Jenny looked at us with interest. Really? Where? I felt the blood rush to my cheeks. Max was clearly trying to figure out what I knew and what I was going to do. Maybe at the cafe near the university, I replied calmly. I go there often. Yes, probably there. He nodded with relief. Jenny smiled. What a coincidence. So you knew each other before Adam. We didn't know each other, Max said quickly. It's just, your face looked familiar. I looked at him and felt something explode inside me. Here he was, hugging his wife, pretending to see me for the first time. And 2 years ago, he was kissing me, promising to show me the world, saying I was special. I have to go, I said, getting up. Thanks for the tea and hospitality, Jenny. It was really nice to meet you. Are you leaving already? She said sadly. I was hoping you would have dinner with us. Unfortunately, I can't. Adam is waiting for me. We agreed to meet. Max also got up, and I noticed his hands were shaking. Tell Adam, he said, his voice breaking, that we want to see him, to talk. I will. Jenny walked me to the door, apologizing profusely for her husband. Don't mind him. He's always like this after a hard day, but tomorrow he'll be as good as new. It's okay, I understand. And be sure to come back. With Adam. We've been waiting so long to meet him. Yes, I'll come. I left the house and walked to the bus stop, feeling my legs barely holding me up. I turned around. Max was standing by the window watching me leave. Our eyes met for a second, then he quickly turned away. I sat on the bus and tried to put my thoughts in order. What just happened? How is it possible that my ex-boyfriend turned out to be my fiancé's father? And why did Adam never introduce me to him? Did he know about my relationship with Max? On the way home, I recalled every detail of that old relationship. Max said he was 26, but now I realized he had lied. He was 35 at the time, a 35-year-old married man with a grown son. Now I understood why he never answered calls after 9 in the evening. He was returning to his family. Why did he avoid talking about his personal life? What could he say? About his wife and son? Why did he always seem a little tense, looking around when we kissed in public places, afraid that someone he knew would see us? And most importantly, why did he leave me so abruptly and cruelly? Perhaps he was afraid of going too far, or someone found out about his double life. At home, I rushed to the old phone I had hidden in my desk drawer. 2 years ago, I couldn't delete Max's number, even though I promised myself I would forget him forever. I dialed the number with trembling fingers. Long beeps, then a familiar voice. Hello. It's Mary. Silence. A long, heavy silence. Mary, he finally repeated. How are you? How did you get my number? I never deleted it. Max, we need to talk. No, we don't. Forget about today. Forget about everything. I can't forget. I'm going to marry your son. Do you understand what that means? Silence again. Listen, he finally said, his voice sounding tired. This is all very complicated. Let's meet and talk like adults. When? Tomorrow, at noon. Do you know the old Maple Cafe on First Street? I do. Come alone and don't tell anyone. What about Adam? Especially Adam. He hung up and I sat there with the phone in my hands, staring at the wall. What had I done? What had I gotten myself into? But the worst part was that deep down I knew that what had happened today was only the beginning. Ahead of me lay a truth that could destroy not only my life, but also the lives of Jenny, Adam, all of us. I lay down on the bed, fully clothed, and stared at the ceiling. It was getting dark outside, and the same questions kept spinning around in my head. How did this happen? Why did Adam start dating me? What did he know? And most importantly, what would happen when the truth came out? The phone rang at 8 in the evening. It was Adam. Hi, sweetheart. Where are you? We agreed to go ring shopping. I'm sorry, I said, trying to sound normal. I'm not feeling well. My head hurts. Do you want me to come over? I'll bring some medicine. No, you should get some sleep. I'll see you tomorrow. Okay, but if you feel worse, call me right away. I love you. I love you too, I replied automatically. After hanging up, I realized I had lied. For the first time in 2 years, I had lied to Adam, and I didn't feel guilty, but rather a kind of bitter relief. Perhaps lies were what our relationship was built on from the very beginning. And now it was time to find out the truth, no matter how painful it might be. The old Maple Cafe was almost empty at noon. I sat at a table by the window, stirring my half-finished coffee with a spoon and watching the door. Max was 15 minutes late, and I was starting to think he wasn't coming. When he finally showed up, I immediately noticed how much he had changed overnight. He had dark circles under his eyes, was unshaven, and his suit looked as if he had slept in it. Max looked around the cafe, noticed me, and slowly approached. "Hi," he said, sitting down opposite me. "Hi." We were silent for a few seconds, looking at each other. I tried to find in his face the man who, 2 years ago, told me I was special, but all I saw was a tired 37-year-old man who looked much older than his age. "Would you like to order something?" I asked. "Coffee, strong?" He motioned to the waiter, ordered, and we fell silent again. Finally, Max looked me in the eyes. "Mary, what happened yesterday? I understand how shocking it is for you." "Shocking?" I couldn't hold back my sarcasm. "Finding out that your fiancé is the son of your ex-boyfriend?" "Yes, you could call that shocking." He grimaced as if in physical pain. "I can explain everything, but first tell me, does Adam know you came to our house?" "No." "Should he?" "No," he said quickly. "Better not." The coffee arrived. Max took a big sip and leaned back in his chair. "Where to start?" He muttered. "Mary, I have to tell you things that will make me look like an even bigger jerk than I already am. It's hard to imagine how that's possible." He smiled without joy. "Maybe." "Do you remember when we met? At the cafe near the university?" "Of course." "It wasn't a coincidence. I was following you. I felt something cold spread through my stomach." "What do you mean?" "Adam has been talking about you for a week. He showed me your photo and said he fell in love at first sight. He told me where you study and which cafes you frequent." "And you decided to check me out?" "At first, yes. Just to see who this girl was who had driven my son crazy. But when I saw you..." He fell silent, staring into his cup. "But when you saw me, you were so young, so full of life. You were sitting with your friend, laughing, and the whole world seemed to shine around you. And I had lived 35 years, thinking I knew everything about life, and then I saw you and realized I knew nothing." "So you decided to get to know me?" "I told myself I would just talk to you, find out what kind of person you were, for Adam's sake. But things didn't go according to plan." "No, you turned out to be even better than I thought. Smart, sincere, funny, and you looked at the world as if everything could still be beautiful." I listened to him and felt anger mixed with pain. So I was just entertainment for him? A way to feel young? "Max, you were married. You had a grown son. Why did you do it?" He looked up at me, and in his eyes I saw something like real torment, because I was 35 and I felt old, because I got married at 22 and never really lived, because Jenny and I had more of a partnership than love. "And that's why you decided to deceive a naive student?" "No," he said sharply. "I didn't plan to date you. I just wanted to meet you and leave. But you..." Goodness, Mary. You looked at me as if I were the most interesting man in the world, because you lied about your age. Yes, and about everything else. But my feelings were real, believe me. I remembered that month, how Max listened to my stories about my future plans, how he was interested in my thoughts, how he kissed me tenderly. At that time, it seemed to me that I had found something special. If your feelings were real, why did you dump me? Max was silent for a long time, twisting a napkin in his hands. "Because Adam saw us." "What?" "We were leaving the restaurant, kissing, near your house. And Adam was passing by on the bus. He recognized you. I remembered that evening, the last in our relationship. We had dinner at an Italian restaurant. Max was being romantic, talking a lot about how beautiful I was. Then he kissed me for a long time in front of the building, and I thought it was serious between us. And what happened next? Adam came home and made a scene. He yelled that I was ruining his life, that he had been working up the courage to write to you for months, and I had beaten him to it. Did he know who I was? Even before we met, he stalked you at university, learned all your habits. He planned to meet you but couldn't bring himself to do it. I felt creeped out. So they were both tracking me? Like some kind of object, not a living person. And what did he say to you? He gave me an ultimatum. Either I break up with you immediately, or he tells my mother everything about my double life, about how I'm betraying my family. And you chose the former. Yes, Mary, I couldn't destroy my family. Jenny didn't know anything. She trusted me. And Adam, he's my son. How could I let him down? But was it okay to let me down? I thought you were young. You'd get over it. You'd find someone better. I sat there trying to digest what I had heard. So all the pain I felt after the breakup, all the loss of self-esteem, it was all so that Adam could carry out his plans? And how quickly did Adam approach me? The day after our breakup. I thought he would wait at least a week, but no. He texted you that same evening. Now I understood where Adam got my phone number, why he knew my address. He found out everything in advance and waited for the right moment. Max, did you really love me? Or were you just playing games? He looked me in the eyes, and I saw sincerity in them. I did, more than I had the right to, and that's why I had to let you go. But you knew I was marrying your son. How could you let that happen? At first, I thought it wouldn't be anything serious, that you would quickly leave him and find someone else. But months passed, and Adam told me how happy you were together. And you did nothing? What could I do? Tell the truth? That would have destroyed us all. I hoped it would somehow resolve itself. And when he proposed to me? I was in shock. I asked him not to rush into it, to think it over, but he said he loved you and couldn't live without you. I remembered how happy I was then, how glad I was to have finally found true love, and it turns out that all this time I was a pawn in someone else's game. Mary, Max said quietly, I understand that you hate me. You have every right to, but believe me, I didn't want it to happen this way. What did you want? For me to quietly marry your son and never find out the truth? I don't know. Maybe I thought that with time I would forget you and everything would be fine. And did you forget? He was silent for a long time. No, not for a single day. I felt something twist in my chest. Part of me still remembered how good it was with him, how safe I felt, but most of me was hurt and angry. Max, I'm going home and telling Adam everything I found out. Mary, no, it will destroy him. He really loves you. Really? Or did he just want to get what my dad didn't get? Don't say that. He's not like that. How do you know? He lied to me for 2 years, about where he lives, about your business trips, about everything. Max became even more upset. He was afraid that you would find out the truth and leave. Love makes people selfish. And blackmailing your own father is also out of love? Mary, enough, I interrupted, getting up. I need time to think about everything. What are you going to do? I don't know, but the lies have to stop. Everyone deserves the truth. I left the cafe, leaving Max at the table. At home, I sat down on the sofa and stared at the wall for a long time. What to do next? Tell Adam and demand an explanation? Go to Jenny and tell her about her husband's betrayal? The phone rang at 4. Adam. Hi, sweetheart. How are you feeling? Better. Adam, we need to talk. Sure. About what? Not on the phone. Come over. I'm on my way. 40 minutes later, he was standing at my door with a bouquet of daisies and a worried look on his face. "What's wrong?" he asked, hugging me. "You look upset." "Sit down," I said, not accepting the flowers. Adam sat down on the sofa, not taking his eyes off me. "Mary, you're scaring me. What happened?" "I went to see your parents yesterday." His face changed instantly, in a split second. "What? Why?" "Because I'm tired of waiting for you to introduce me to them." "Adam, why did you lie to me?" "About what?" "About everything. About living with your parents. About the business trip to Ireland. About them not wanting to meet me." Adam sat silently, and I could see him trying to come up with an explanation. "Mary, I can explain everything." "Explain how you blackmailed your father? How you forced him to leave me so you could come into my life?" Now he turned completely pale. You know?" I know your father is my ex-boyfriend. I know you were spying on us. I know how it really was." Adam put his head in his hands. "God, Mary, I didn't want you to find out." "Why? Did you hope I would live my whole life in a lie?" "No, I wanted you to truly love me, to forget about him." "Adam, how could you do that? How could you ruin someone else's life for your own desires?" He looked up at me with eyes full of tears. "Because I loved you. From the first day I saw you in that cafe. You were so beautiful, so bright. And then I found out that Dad was dating you, and I was consumed with jealousy. And you decided to frame him? I just wanted him to leave, to give me a chance. Mary, I really love you. What difference does it make? Our whole story is based on lies. No, not all of it. My feelings are real. Everything between us was real." I looked at him and felt only exhaustion. This handsome guy, who had been playing the role of the perfect fiancé for 2 years, turned out to be just a manipulator. "Adam, it's over." "No." He threw himself at my feet. "Mary, please." "I can fix everything. I'll tell my mom the truth. I'll apologize to my dad. Just don't leave me. It's too late. Too many lies. But we love each other." "You love me, but I don't know what I feel." "Maybe I never really loved you." He cried, begged, promised to start over. But I was adamant. Trust is broken, and it's impossible to restore it. When Adam finally left, I sat alone for a long time. Then I picked up the phone and dialed Jenny's number. "Hello?" "Jenny, it's Mary. Can I come over? I need to tell you something." An hour later, I was sitting in their living room again. Jenny offered me tea and told me how strange Max had been the night before. "He must have been really tired from work," she said. "He tossed and turned all night, couldn't sleep." "Jenny," I interrupted her, "I need to tell you something about your husband." She looked at me with interest. "About Max? Why?" I took a deep breath. 2 years ago, before I met Adam, I was dating a man. He said he was 26 and not married. We dated for a month, and then he dumped me. Jenny listened intently, frowning. "What does that have to do with Max?" "That man was your husband. Mares, Max is the same man who dumped me." Jenny looked at me for a few seconds, then quietly put down her cup. Are you sure?" "Yes, I recognized him yesterday, and today he told me everything himself." "Everything?" "That he cheated on you with me, that he lied about his age and marital status, that he left me only because Adam saw us and gave him an ultimatum." Jenny sat silently. Her face showed nothing. No anger, no shock, no pain. "Jenny?" I called softly. "I knew," she said finally. "What?" "I knew he had someone else. A man can't change so radically without a reason. He started coming home late more often, bought new clothes, even changed his perfume." "And you didn't say anything?" "Why?" "I thought it would pass, that it was just a midlife crisis." "But you—" "Mary," Jenny interrupted me, "I married Max when I was 18. I gave birth to Adam a year later. I've never worked or lived on my own. Where would I go? What would I do?" I looked at her and didn't understand. Where was the anger? Where was the resentment? You forgive him? What choice do I have? Get a divorce? Take Adam's father away from him? Start my life over at 37? But, Mary, you're young. You have your whole life ahead of you. All I have is this family, and I don't want to destroy it because my husband felt lonely. I was in shock. This was not the reaction I had expected. Jenny, I'm so sorry. I didn't know he was married. If I had known... I know, she said quietly. You're a good girl. And you were hurt too. Yes. What about Adam? It's over. I can't be with someone who lies like that. Jenny nodded. I understand. He takes after his father in that respect. We sat in silence for a while longer, then I said goodbye and left. At home, I took off the ring and put it in a box. Tomorrow, I'll give it back to Adam. It was getting dark outside. I lay on the bed and thought about what had happened. In 3 days, my life had been turned upside down. My fiancé turned out to be a manipulator. His father was my former lover, and my future mother-in-law was a woman who was willing to endure anything to keep her family together. It was painful. It was scary. But at the same time, I felt something like relief. Finally, all the lies were over. Finally, I knew the truth. Maybe Jenny was right. I'm young, I have my whole life ahead of me, and I will live that life honestly, without lies and illusions, even if I have to start all over again.